What is going on, YouTube? So coming back today with my next top 10. So opening day right around the corner, I believe April 4th, maybe April 3rd. And so I believe it starts next Tuesday, Monday or Tuesday. So anyway, wanted to do my top 10 fantasy baseball sleepers heading into 2016. So I've talked about this a little bit when I actually do my mock drafts and my live drafts. If you've not seen those, definitely go check them out. I'll put the link to those in the description below. But anyway, I wanted to actually list them out. So go ahead and start with number 10, and I've got the Toronto Blue Jays, probably new ace, and that is Marcus Stroman. So I like what Stroman will be doing this year. Just really the position he's in. Obviously, took a backseat to David Price in the rotation last year, and with David Price gone to the Boston Red Sox, he's the guy now. And again, put up solid stats while he was playing last year, and I believe he had about a 1.6 ERA, maybe closer to 1.7 through spring training. So putting up solid stats, looking every bit the part to take over that ace spot. And I've mentioned this, like I said again, in a lot of my mock drafts, I think this guy could be a top 10 starting pitcher at the end of the year. So at number 9, I've got a guy who I think is in a very good situation right now, and that is the Colorado Rockies shortstop, Trevor Story. So I think Story's been a few years in waiting. He's been a top prospect for about 4 or 5 years now. And like I said, at 23 years old, this is a guy that I think has a lot of upside in the situation he's playing in Colorado. I think he's got 2020 potential and has a very real chance of reaching it by the end of the year. Now, the thing with the Rockies is I don't know how much offensive support they're going to get. They probably should get a lot. They still got Carlos Gonzalez in the outfield. You still got Nolan Arenado, probably the best player on that team, on the infield. And I think this guy could be a really good, maybe third bat in that lineup. Charlie Blackmon, obviously, pretty good too. And move on to number 8, and I've got the Milwaukee Brewers outfielder Reimer Liriano. So similar to Trevor Story, a younger guy, been waiting for a little while with the Milwaukee Brewers. I think he's the favorite to win the center fielder job. Again, a guy that's probably got maybe 15-20 type potential. He's a speedy outfielder. And again, with Chris Davis gone, again, another player that I like to do big things in Oakland this year. But back to Reimer Liriano, I think a guy that has 15-20 type potential and then maybe a batting average around 280, so very valuable. A guy that has the potential to put very valuable stats in the outfield. So at number 7, I've got the Texas Rangers second baseman Rougned Odor. So the 22-year-old comes into this season having put up respectable stats last year, if I can find those really quickly. But I think he's already one of the probably top 8 second basemen heading into this season. And with the situation he's in Texas, a team that probably is a playoff contender, and the support he's got in the lineup with Adrian Beltre, let's go blank, Prince Fielder, and Elvis Andrus go up and down that lineup. It's still a pretty good lineup. It seems like Texas is able to score runs almost every single year. And I think he's been pretty good so far through spring training, hitting at 385, 4 home runs, 11 RBIs through 13 games. So looking every bit the part. Batted .261 last year, 9 home runs, 16 RBIs. Again, those stats I think will probably go up this year. Projections have him anywhere from I think a 270 to a 280 batting average, maybe around 15 to 20 home runs and 70 RBIs. I think that's probably what you're going to be looking at the end of the year. So move on to number 6. This is a guy that I've been extremely high on again this year, and that's the Cleveland Indians shortstop Francisco Lindor. So Lindor honestly had a pretty good season last year, and I think some people think he's overhyped. It's really more in the eye of the beholder right now, and I think he's going to put up huge numbers this year. I think he's got the ability to do 20 home runs, 20 stolen bases, 80 RBIs with a 300 batting average. And with the thin shortstop position right now, I think a guy like that is extremely valuable. Again, probably a top 5 fantasy shortstop already, maybe top 10. I don't know about top 5. But a guy that, depending on the draft you're in, has at the beginning of the year was falling off draft boards really quick. I think his stock was rising pretty fast at the beginning of the year, and then it's slowed down since. So at number 5, I've got the Seattle Mariners starting pitcher Taijuan Walker. So Taijuan Walker honestly had about 1 strikeout per inning last year. He's got a nasty fastball. I'm pretty sure he's got a pretty good curveball in his arsenal as well. Not the ace in Seattle, probably won't be for a little while as long as they got King Felix there, but I think one of the better second guys in any rotation when you're talking about ceiling. I think if he can get the ERA, he is in a pitcher's ballpark, so if he can get the ERA down below maybe a 3.7, keep progressing a little bit, then that'll definitely be valuable numbers to put up. If Seattle does have the offensive support, I think they have the ability to have this year. If Robbie Cano puts up a little bit better stats this season, maybe gets a little bit more comfortable in Seattle, then I think you can look at the wins going up. The whip will be there. And like I said, I definitely got to watch out for it this year. Another guy that I don't have on this list, but I did want to mention is Raisel Iglesias. Again, another guy that I mentioned in most of my mock drafts. Got a nasty arsenal coming over from Cuba, and I think he'll be a stud in the Reds rotation this year. So at number 4, I've got the outfielder for the Minnesota Twins, Byron Buxton. So didn't really pan out too well last year coming in as the number 1 prospect in baseball. He's still got, I'd say, 30-30 type hype if he can realize his ceiling. The Twins are really loaded with young talent right now, and I hope that Buxton pans out. He had it, I believe in the majors last year, he had a average below like 220, maybe 210, and obviously if he can develop a little bit more, that average should go up. That's not telling of what he was able to do in the minors, a batting average, I believe, around 320, 330 career for the minors, and again, he's a guy that is the number 2 overall prospect coming into baseball this year. And honestly, I think he has the highest ceiling of any prospect in baseball, even ahead of Corey Seager. But it's really got to be realized. So at number 3, I've got the New York Mets outfielder Michael Conforto. So I like what Conforto was able to do in the minors. Again, a lot like a lot of these guys on this list, has 2020 potential in a Mets lineup that brings back Yoenis Cespedes, see what David Wright can do this year. And I like Michael Conforto to step up and be one of the best offensive players on this team this year. Again, Michael Conforto, guy I believe only 23 years old, so still developing. I got to see him play in USA Baseball maybe 5, 6 years ago. It was a while back. But a guy that I believe in. I think he's extremely good defensively. Obviously, that doesn't play too much in fantasy baseball, but he's got good speed. I think he's got the ability to hit around 270, 280. And yeah, like I said, put up some valuable stats in the outfield for really what is a pretty loaded list of outfielders on this top 10. Anyway, move on to number 2, and I've got the Philadelphia Phillies third baseman Michael Franco. So Michael Franco kind of reminds me of, I guess when you're talking about the power hype, kind of reminds me of Ryan Howard from about 10 years ago. And it's crazy that time's already gone, but this is a guy that if he hadn't had a wrist, I believe it was a wrist injury last year, had 30 home run potential, probably will realize that with a full season this year. I don't even know if he's a sleeper at this point. So many people have talked about him being a sleeper, and I guess that's why he's so high up on the list. I like what he's able to do. To me, he's not the deepest sleeper by any means. Like I said, some of these guys are deep sleepers, I guess, in the way of like a Trevor Story or Reimer Liriano. But Michael Franco, a guy that does have a lot of hype going into the season, and a guy that's probably already a top 10 third baseman in fantasy baseball. So when you're looking at sleepers, keep that in mind. But I do think he has the ability to put up top 3 type stats when you're talking about hitting for third baseman. So at number 1, I've got another third baseman for the Minnesota Twins, Miguel Sano. So the only real knock on Sano is his average, his strikeouts. In a full season, you're probably talking about a 240, 250 batting average, but also a guy that's, I personally think he's got 40 home run potential. I think he's got the best bat on the Minnesota Twins. And if the Twins are able to replicate the kind of surprise success they had last year and, put up some of the same type of offensive stats, I think it could be a big year for Miguel Sano. This is a guy, to me, that has 40 home run, 100 RBI potential. Really, if anyone on this list, or if any 2 players on this list have that, it's Sano and Franco. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I'm saying he might have the highest ceiling of anyone on this list. So that pretty much concludes my top 10 best fantasy baseball sleepers heading into 2016. Tomorrow I might do top 10 fantasy baseball busts or overdrafted, something like that. Continue the trend before opening day. So that's pretty much it. See ya. Post until tomorrow. So look out for 2 top 10s tomorrow. So today I kind of wanted to wrap up my most hated series. Not my personal most hated series, but my series where I talk about the most hated teams or players. And